Mr. Edo, thank you for staying with us. We were asking if INEC was aware, or was it part of INEC's arrangement, that in some polling units, accreditation commenced and the ballot papers were not there. They were to arrive after accreditation was completed. Was that part of INEC's arrangement? Because voters in some areas were apprehensive as to how that arrangement was going to work out.
Well, the procedure of the commission is that the materials, the sensitive materials, will be available when the process commences. Yes, of course, accreditation takes some time before the voting begins. But clearly, by the time the procedure commences, the materials were available.
I'll give you an instance. INEC had already said that the accreditation was going to be between the hours of 8 and 1 p.m., 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., and voting was supposed to commence at 1:30, thereabout, till about 6 or thereabout, you know, till the last voter has voted. Now, in some areas, accreditation did not start until 3 p.m. In these areas, voters had taken their numbers and they had an idea of how many people were going to be in that polling unit. Now, in some places, they suggested that if we're already at 6 p.m. and we're still doing accreditation, perhaps those who have collected done their accreditation should be able to vote. But they were told categorically that the ballot papers were not there and that they will have to wait for accreditation to be completed before voting will commence. In those areas, INEC could have lost some voters because out of a lack of patience, but some people were also apprehensive that what if we finish this process and the ballot papers never come and results come out for our polling station? What happens? Did INEC envisage this?
Yeah, Mark, but you see, thanks for the way the scenario you painted. I can tell you categorically that the officials there were doing the right thing, but they took a smart way of telling the people what the right thing is. The right thing is the accreditation is separate from the voting, regardless of the fact that accreditation started late. And what they wanted to achieve is to say everybody must accredit first. You know why you can't combine accreditation with voting? When voting starts, there has to be a head count of how many people are on the line. At the end of the day, the commission must be able to cross-check the number of ballots cast with the number of accredited voters. And so accreditation ought to be concluded before votes are cast so that you will be able to know that people who cast their votes, the number of people who cast their votes are not more than the number of people who are accredited. So if voters said, no, because it is late, let us accredit and vote and go, it is against the procedures of the commission.
Agreed. Mr. Kade, I can't take that away from you. Agreed that that is the process of INEC, if you can hear me. But the thing is, was that part of INEC's arrangement? Was it really true, or was it just a gimmick? Were the ballot papers supposed to accompany the presiding officers, or were they supposed to go back and collect them from the central unit?
I can tell you, I suspect that at that time, the ballot papers were there. But they had to say something to hold the people so as not for them not to derail the process. Because the people were insisting that, look, we have accredited this late, we want to vote and go. And they know that it is not the process. You can't vote and you can't accredit and vote and go. Because accreditation is separate from voting.
What about the results sheet? Just a moment. What about the results sheet? Because if what we saw in River State, the governor was saying
the results sheets were there.
Go ahead. I'm sorry I didn't catch the last part of your response, but I was asking about
the papers were made available. The result sheets were also there.
Okay, so the result sheets were there, but they just didn't want to show the governor of the state.
On what premise will you be holding out the result sheets to a voter? Voters come to the polling units, and there are procedures for doing things. The result sheets are sensitive materials. They are not materials for. You could as well say a voter should come to the polling unit and audit the ballot papers first, before the process can go on.
Okay, Mr. Edo, let's move on a little bit and staying with the issues of the voting process of yesterday. Now, in some units, particularly in some part of Lagos, Etiosa to be precise, one of the units there, the voters had finished their accreditation, but then the electoral officers now left that they were going to get the ballot papers, and they never came back. In that kind of situation, would you say that those people voted, or will they be able to vote today?
Nyota, I can tell you that the process, the procedure, as it stands today, is that you can't have accreditation on one day and have voting on another day.
So those guys have forfeited their voting rights?
I will want to cross-check that instance you are talking about. I will need to cross-check.
Okay, maybe you should also cross-check this in Koshofe local government area, or Oshoki to be precise. Sheon sent in a mail. This is a series of mails, so let me just read them out to you. The first one, he says, no accreditation in my polling unit 24/13/01/003, Oshoki, Lagos. We are still awaiting materials from INEC even till now, 12:45 p.m. INEC officials are here, but no register to work with. That is the first mail. Second mail, we did not vote in my polling unit at Oshoki Koshofe local government area. This is unacceptable. That's at 4:33 p.m. Then this morning, he sends in another one. He says, my polling unit 24/13/01/003 Oshoki Koshofe, Lagos. Elections didn't take place. No ballot papers, no boxes. What do we do? No elections in some other units of Oshoki. Would you be cross-checking this as well?
I will, because, like I said, these are, well, you said that accreditation did not take place at all. So that is to say the process did not occur there. Yes, I would cross-check. If that happened yesterday, possibly they will have asked them to come back today.
Mr. Edo, I'm so sorry I have to interrupt you here, but what the viewers obviously watching us, people who tried to participate in the process yesterday or who did. Now, you just told us about how, you know, the INEC officials were saying that ballot papers are not available, but you're sure that they were. But in some places, they said they witnessed the INEC officials making frantic calls to their supervisors to ensure that ballot papers came around. This is at the same time we're reading headlines saying that in some areas, ballot papers were insufficient in some states. Is INEC aware of all of this?
Well, I just told you the specific states where we had issues with ballot papers, namely Jigawa and Delta in federal constituencies in Jigawa and the federal constituency in Delta. Honestly, you see, you hear all manners of narratives. I will want to know, when people say insufficient ballot paper, what does that mean? Does it mean there were some people who had been accredited and as voting was going on, they ran out of ballot papers and people were waiting to be issued ballot papers and there were no ballot papers to issue? So what happened?
That is one question that one would have thought that INEC would paint, a scenario that INEC would paint.
People said insufficient ballot paper. I just like you to, I'm just saying that so that we can think through some of these narratives. When people say there were insufficient ballot papers, what does that mean? I mean, because how do you know ballot papers are insufficient? You never know ballot papers are insufficient until, as they were issuing ballot papers to people, people who had accredited and voting started. And they were issuing the ballot papers. As they were issuing, it got to a point there was no ballot paper to issue to some people. And those who had not gotten the ballot papers now said, these are our accreditation documents, because you are actually inked when you are accredited. So this, I have been accredited, I am on the queue, the person in front of me has voted, there's no ballot paper for me to vote.
Do you think that INEC officials across board, say the recs in a different state, the resident electoral commissioners in a different states, also came up with their ingenious method to ensure that INEC followed, or INEC officials followed the process as they should? For instance, withholding ballot papers until accreditation was completed. It could have been just an ingenious method to ensure that the INEC officials at the polling units are not bullied or intimidated into providing the ballot papers there and then. Are you aware of any such thing?
Well, you said it. And like I said, you see, sometimes these things are done to address issues that you have on hand. The procedure is that elections will not commence if the materials were not there. But if the materials were there, and because of the agitation and the pressure, they said, look, we are still waiting for the materials, please, just let's finish with the accreditation. That could be a way of handling the situation at that point in time. But the rule and the procedure is that when we didn't have ballot papers for the constituencies in Jigawa State, we said so, and we said elections can't go on here. So don't let us start. And they said, okay, don't start. So these are the things. When we didn't have result sheets in 2011, people were already accredited. People started accreditation then because we had the promise that the result sheets will come in before now, and aircraft were waiting to airlift those result sheets. But by morning, when it was clear that these result sheets will not be here in good time before accreditation, the elections were called off.